Couple with Breck, brew and a friend, bleed orange and blue to the bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
We are DNVR. We are live from Studio A here at the DNVR Bar, where there are significantly less people than there were on Saturday.
I can actually see the floor
yes.
and see around right now.
It's a nice floor. Same floor, original floor from what used to be Capitol Hill State Bank.
Wow, one of the oldest banks?
Yes, I believe one of the oldest banks, and I believe we also have the oldest elevator in Denver in this building.
That's pretty darn cool. And man, Saturday night was popping down at the bar.
Yes, it was. It was obviously the only thing that could have made it better was a Nuggets win.
Yep.
So hopefully we get that tonight. Come hang out. Get here so early. Just however early you think you should get here earlier.
So what you're saying, game's at 8 p.m., so you're saying when you get off work, just come right here.
That's what I actually was talking to someone last night who said that was their plan. Just get off work. No need to go home. Bring, your Nuggets jersey or shirt in your car. Flip it on.
We've got food here. You're good.
But there's also a basic rule. If you come early and stay for the game, you're going to be here for about maybe 4.5 hours, right? Tip well. That's where, this is a lesson I learned from my dad many years ago when we go watch a game at a sports bar. If we were there for hours kind of grazing, but not necessarily eating, he said, look, son, you got to jack that tip up to 35 or 40%.
Wow.
Love
this
it.
is good life advice for me.
Take care of the people who take care of you, because, look, you're going to come in, you're going to be there for hours. That means there's not going to be turnover, but you want to make sure that your server gets what they deserve.
I like that. I like that a lot. Less tabs. Gotta have more tips.
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's a better way of putting it than I did. So.
A lot of people won't even have a table with how packed this bar gets, and that's what makes it so much fun.
That's kind of the way I like it. Actually, the other day I was sitting down. Not tonight. I'm standing tonight. I want to be, in the mosh pit. It's just, I don't know. It's just a little more fun to me.
Yep.
But if you do want a table, you're absolutely coming out here right when you get off of work. Anyways. Like I said, we're coming to you live from Studio A. Today, the A stands for Are You Sure About That? And we'll get to that here in just a second. But first, a shout out to our presenting sponsor, MSU Denver. msudenver.edu/online, where you can go to scope out all they have to offer. And they've got a lot to offer because they have students there who work twice as many hours as students attending any other Colorado institution, meaning this whole thing is set up so that you can get your education, further that education while working a full-time job. They've got 750 total classes, 45 plus online and hybrid programs. So check them out over at msudenver.edu/online.
My boys, what is going on? And we are talking about Garett Bolles today because we talked to him last week, and Garett Bolles was perfect. Garett Bolles last week. I mean, he was talking about cows,
what
chickens mooing or something, or cows croaking.
Yeah.
And we also had him get a little emotional. We also had him saying how, he protects his quarterback like it's his wife. I mean, he was prime Garett Bolles.
Yeah, he's so unique on the podium. Like,
Yeah.
I've never really heard someone who talks the way that he does when he speaks to the media.
It's because he wants to open up and be so real, and then he gets excited about it, and things just go, and they turn into some really fun quotes.
What was the cows thing? It was something about cows.
Yeah, I think he was talking about, like, in the morning, the the cows are crowing or something like that. Yes.
He mixes his metaphors.
Yes.
That's one thing.
I love a good
that,
mixed
like,
metaphor.
He has some malaprops when he speaks. That's okay.
Yes,
A lot of us do.
sometimes they turn out even better. When
Yeah.
Here we go. I got it. He said, "I've never been a kid where I just grew up and everything pretty and the grass is green and the cows are chirping and mooing
That's
and
it.
chickens, whatever."
The cows are chirping.
Cows are chirping. I love that so much.
It's incredible.
But
Don't change, Garrett.
he had some really interesting comments. One stood out the most to me because, while I like the confidence, I'm curious to see where you guys stand on this. Garett Bolles said, and I quote, "I think I've made myself one of the best left tackles in football."
And then he continued and said, "I just pride myself on that. You talk about the best guys in football. I believe I'm one of them. I believe I'm on the right track to be the best."
Respect. And here's where I'm at. He's not right. I don't think he's one of the best left tackles in football right now, or at least he wasn't last season. He was the year before. And I guess, if you were to look at the overall body of work, you would definitely say no way. But even if you just looked at last season, I think you would say no way. That being said, I think he is on track to being one of the best. I don't know about the best. And why? Because his quarterback play is about to get a whole hell of a lot better. So I don't know. Where are you at on this?
Well, I agree with you about his quarterback play getting a lot better, but one of the interesting things about Russell Wilson is he doesn't always help out his offensive line. Now, Russell Wilson has not been dealt a good offensive line throughout his career, so it's going to be interesting to see when he has one of the best, if not the best offensive lines, how he manages running around, because Russell Wilson over the past couple of years has been sacked more than any other quarterback, but at the exact same time, he's also been the quarterback that's been credited with the most sacks. He's been the one that has caused the most sacks. So in terms of Garett Bolles looking better, I'm not quite sure that's going to happen. Even if Russell Wilson does take fewer sacks, it could still be more sacks than people would like to see. And if Russell Wilson ducks out to the left, Garett Bolles is going to be credited with probably a few more sacks than he actually should be given.
Would he, though? Sometimes he can duck out to the left, but if it's a certain amount of time after, like if it's like 6-7 seconds, then some of those are going to fall on the quarterback. I mean, sort of the dirty secret that you'll hear from offensive linemen over the years is you learn that it's not that a lot of sacks aren't on the O-line. They're on the QB. So hopefully that is taken into account where it's like, oh, well, Bolles got beat. Well, if Bolles guides his man behind and wide and Wilson moves and drifts into him, that's not on Bolles, that's on Russ.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's going to be difficult for Garett Bolles to look like the best left tackle.
Or is it just his stats that aren't going to look great?
Exactly.
Okay.
And people will be pointing at that, not all the in-depth analysis.
Here's the best thing I can tell you guys about what's about to happen. Remember how Garett Bolles holds were like the end of the world?
Yep.
Over the last, how long has he been here? 4 years?
Yep.
It's not going to happen. It's not going to be like that anymore. The reason Russell Wilson takes a few sacks is because he tries to make big plays. And guess what? If you get him on one, the next time he's going to get just out of your grasp and huck it downfield and get 35, 40 yards. So, remember like playing the Chiefs and you get them in 3rd and 18 or something, and you don't feel safe at all. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you're playing the Broncos over the last 6 years, if you get them in 3rd and 18, start calling your first 3 plays of the next series. You're getting the ball back. It's over. Just don't commit a penalty. Things are about to change dramatically. So while the stats might be there, I think the hysteria that comes with a Garett Bolles sack or hold is going to be much more dimmed, and we'll be able to focus on the things that he does really well, which is a lot. Like we've been hard on him. Like I said, I don't think he's quite yet one of the best left tackles in football. He does a lot of things really well. And I think as the Broncos offense starts to score points and not everyone is always looking for somewhere to point a finger, Garett Bolles' reputation is going to grow, and that could help him, get a Pro Bowl type of honor.
Well, and here's what you really hope is, and Garett admitted this on Thursday, that he was having mental struggles with the game. And so he hired a mental coach to help him. And one of the things that we saw specifically 3 years ago, and especially early in his career, one hold, especially at home, would easily turn into two holds, potentially back-to-back or back-to-back series. It would get in his mind. You hope that Russell Wilson is that calming effect to him. And him knowing that Russell Wilson is back there lets him know, okay, I don't need to force things right now. Even though in the past I've had to force things, I don't need to do that right now. I really think that's an advantage that Russell brings to Garett Bolles, and it's not something that we're ever going to see. It's going to be that subconscious thing from Garett.
Thing is, though, how much time does he have to really get better? Because you can't ignore the ticking clock here on Garett Bolles. He turns 30 next month.
It's crazy. 30 is washed. I can speak from experience.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. So what happens when you're 45, then?
I don't know. You tell me.
I think Mace's mind goes the other direction. He just gets wiser as he gets older.
That's
I don't
true.
know.
Yes.
I
I
don't know
just keep
about
getting
that.
dumber. I don't know what's happening.
Okay, well, the funny thing is you maybe not dumber, but I have a friend of mine I work with in Carolina, and he has a theory on, like, if you'd had kids, then he says, look, what happens is the space in your brain that's filled with sports minutia ends up being filled with parenting type stuff, like knowing what your kids are watching on television and how they're doing in school and that kind of thing. But you don't have kids yet, so I can't explain it.
Yeah.
If there was a little RK running around right now, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's typical.
Too many Nuggets and Avs playoff games.
Man,
Yeah.
I can't wait for tonight.
I can't wait for tonight
But
either.
one other thing, kind of going to Mace's point of why Garett Bolles may not be trending in the right direction, is Mike Munchak is gone. And it was undeniable what Mike Munchak was able to do for him the first year he got here. In fact, Mike Munchak, we'll see this year. Could he be credited for all of for not all, but a big majority of Garett Bolles' success? Remember, the Broncos didn't pick up his fifth-year option because right when Mike Munchak got there, Garett Bolles was Garrett Holds. He was getting called number 72 and the fans were booing left and right. They didn't pick up his fifth-year option. Mike Munchak gets here, but halfway through the season, it was like, this guy needs to be paid as one of the best left tackles in the NFL. Mike Munchak, no longer here. Broncos are bringing in first-time offensive line coach Butch Barry to help him. Now, Garett points to I'm struggling just like struggling just like Garett on the mic today. And Garett points to Trent Williams as being one of the top left tackles in the NFL, and that's where Butch Barry was. He says, Butch knows how to coach great left tackles and make them great. I like where your head's at, Garett. Trent Williams was a top left tackle in the NFL before he got to San Francisco, before he got with Butch Barry. So
Hopefully he was just watching what makes Trent Williams great.
And then can give that to Garett.
Well, okay, so you bring up a good point about Trent Williams. How old is Trent Williams?
32-ish?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so arguably the best left tackle in football, 32. How old?
He is 33, about to be 34 this
34
year.
this summer.
Okay, exactly. So, and if you go around the league and start pointing to some of the best left tackles in football, David Bakhtiari.
Yep.
Who else?
You have Armstead. We talked about a lot.
He's right at 30, right?
Yep.
Okay. So if you look around, 30, while it can be a huge drop off for certain levels of players, we know it doesn't impact quarterback, and we definitely know it doesn't impact left tackle. So while no one ever liked the fact that the Broncos drafted Garett Bolles at 25 years old, it's not as if you can point around and say, oh yeah, there's a huge drop off that happens for left tackles once they hit 30.
In fact, look at the left tackle that just won the Super Bowl and is now retiring.
Yep.
He was
40.
42?
Yeah, but at the same time, also note this. With Trent Williams, the first time he was first or second team All-Pro was at age 27.
Yep.
The first time for David Bakhtiari was at age 25. Taron Armstead also in his mid-20s when he got that for the first time. So they were basically at a higher level sooner.
Yep.
In part, I mean, that was part of the whole thing with Garett Bolles was there were some teams that even crossed him off the board because they said, hey, he's going to be 25 when he plays his first NFL game. He's overaged.
Wait, but wasn't Garett Bolles second team All-Pro at 27?
He was, yep.
So he's on the track. I don't think he's going to be in that conversation, honestly. I think he can be at the top of tier
28. He would have been 28.
28. Okay.
Because he was born in 92.
But, he's in that late 20s is when he, started hitting his peak. And again, it was kind of a fluky season, and he wasn't able to back it up last year. So now there's still questions to be had.
And his best season was with no fans in the stands.
Exactly.
And that, to me, that is still a concern that I have.
And that's why I said a fluky season.
Yeah, he operated at his best in a vacuum.
For sure. My point, though, is that especially if he looks better this year, and again, you mentioned the sack stuff, it's going to happen. Mm-hmm. Russell Wilson takes sacks, and he's just okay with it. But can he get back to that form where he's really clean, he's not getting into his head, all that stuff? And if he can, I'm not worried about his age because I think he can play at a high level for an another contract.
I completely agree. I'm not worried about his age either. And this is a massive year for Garett Bolles, and he kind of needs to be in that top of the second tier, and that's where I think he is, guys. When it boils down to this, I don't think Garett Bolles is a top 5 tackle in the NFL. I think he's probably that second wave, borderline top 10 tackle. Now that's overall tackles, so potentially a borderline top 5 left tackle in the NFL. I think he can be in that conversation. Do I think he's realistically going to be the best tackle in the NFL year in, year out? No, I don't think so. But he doesn't need to be, because right now, guys, he is the 12th highest paid tackle in the NFL, making $17 million a season. The 12th. So you don't expect him. It wouldn't be fair to expect him to be the number 1 best tackle in the NFL. He's the 12th. So can he be right around there? And I think that's realistically where he can be. And why this year is so big for him is he has a cap hit this year, $21 million. He's getting paid this year. After this year, his cap hit next year is $18 million. The year after, it's $20 million. Still pretty big cap hits there. You need a guy to be good in order to live up to that, but the Broncos can get out of it. Only $8 million in dead money if they move on from him after this year. So they could save $10 million and then save way more in 2024. So what does he have to do to be on the team next year?
Be formidable.
And what is that? Top half?
Yeah.
Top 15 tackle in the NFL.
There's just no way that's an area where you're going to pinch pennies if you have a solid starter there.
And here's a situation where it could happen. The Broncos drafted tackle. It was 64 or in the third round this year. Mm-hmm. And they kind of have their eyes on him being a right tackle. But then let's say one of the right tackles you have, Calvin Anderson, steps up and develops into a solid right tackle. He's cheap. You have Billy Turner turn into a good right tackle, and you say, well, this kid who we draft in the third round next year, he can play left tackle, and let's save $10 million. You're not doing that if Garett Bolles is a top 10 tackle in the NFL. If he's right at average, you may be doing that, but if he's in the top half, I agree with you, Ryan. You're not going to make a big hole for yourself, especially with Russell Wilson as your quarterback.
Exactly.
How about this news just coming down? Denzel Ward, 5 years, $100 million, $71 million guaranteed, highest paid corner in NFL history. Luckily, you don't have to worry about Pat Surtain for another 4 years.
But you may want to add about on a per year basis. You may want to add about 20% to that potentially. So you're probably talking about Pat Surtain when it's his time, $24 or $25 million a year.
Yep.
And you do it. You don't worry about it. You sign on the dotted line.
It's just crazy. I mean, the way these guys are getting paid. Also, 70% of that contract guaranteed. If I'm a valuable player, I'm settling for nothing less than 100% guaranteed in this day and age. But that's pretty good compared to the way things used to be.
Man, that is a ton of money.
It is.
And we're talking about the guy that was picked 1 pick before Bradley Chubb.
And he's only 24. Look at that. As a first-round pick, getting his contract at 24. rather than what we're talking about right now. Now I know it would be a third contract, I guess, for Garett Bolles if he were to re-sign again. Or, like you mentioned, the Broncos there is a situation where I think they could move on, but I kind of have a feeling that Garett Bolles is going to be here forever. Because
and ever.
Yeah, because he's almost the perfect mix from a cap standpoint of this guy's good enough that we want to keep him around, but he's not so good that we have to pay him insane money. And that tackle position is so difficult to fill when you don't have it, that if you have a guy, like I said, top half of the league, you're going to keep paying him, and you're going to keep re-signing him, in my opinion. And I think Garett would want to be here, especially during the Russell Wilson era. The only thing that I worry about is, remember, I've talked about this with Melvin Gordon. The stakes are so much higher now. That every mistake, where I talked about it earlier, you're going to be able to overcome it more, but the stages just get greater and greater. And let's say you're Sunday Night Football playing for first place, and you have a hold on third down that would have been a first down. Now it's 3rd and 20. You don't get it. That type of stuff is going to be the opposite of what I talked about earlier, where I said you can overcome it. In those big moments, if something like this happens, then it's going to have the opposite effect where people are going to be twice as mad about it.
Well, and what if he does live up to being this one of the best, if not the best left tackle? You know what he could say after this year? He could say, wait. This next year I'm making $14 million as my base salary. The year after that I'm making $16 million. So these next 2 years I'm averaging $15 million. And Trent Williams, a guy that I aspire to be, he's making $23 million a year. Pay me. Show me the money more. Re-up me, because I want more of that guaranteed money. I want a fully guaranteed contract. And right now I'm $8 million cheaper than what this other guy's making. He could easily make that case.
He could.
And then what do you do?
And that's the problem, with the player empowerment era. I think I've said this on the show before. It's real easy to be all for it when the team sucks.
Yeah.
When you start competing for championships and you're trying to keep the roster together, from a fan perspective, a lot of people are going to be a lot more annoyed with the idea that you have 2 years on the contract that you signed. Right. What do you mean you want more money?
Yeah, we haven't had many of those conversations, like you said, because the team hasn't been good.
Right. It doesn't matter, and now it does. I remember people won't want to admit this now, but there was a huge anti-Demaryius Thomas contingent out there when he was holding out for more money, in during the Peyton era, because everyone's saying, what are you doing? Like, we got to get out there. We got to, Peyton's such a meticulous quarterback that you're wasting, days at training camp that are so valuable. You're putting yourself before the team, but that's what these guys, put all that aside. These guys should be putting themselves first, because it's a short-lived career and it can be over at any moment. So I'm always going to support the players getting as much money as they can, but it's going to be more annoying now that that the games matter and the roster construction matters, and all of this is going to be the difference between did you go out in the first round or did you go to the Super Bowl?
And the thing is, there comes a point where if you go out in the first round, let's say you do that 2 or 3 years in a row, does the players start losing hope? If the quarterback especially, is it possible that 5 years from now, Russell Wilson might look around and say, I want to go finish my career somewhere else?
And with the way, Tom Brady may end up being in Tampa Bay for 3 years and then going somewhere else after this year.
You can't dismiss that anymore.
No, you really can't. And really quick on that Denzel Ward news, what percentage would you give that in the next year, Bradley Chubb signs a deal, 5 years, $100 million?
0%.
Zero.
Yeah.
I think you're crazy for that.
Really?
Absolutely.
Just because if he balls out this year?
If he comes and gets, not even, breaks the record for sacks. If he has 15 sacks, that's what he's getting.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess it's more than 0%. It's 25%.
Yeah? So 25% chance he has a 15 sack-ish season.
Yeah, I think DraftKings would give you better odds than that. But maybe it's 20%.
Yeah, I think it's probably right around there.
It's so hard to tell, and And I didn't mean that as a knock on Bradley at all. It's just there's so little production on the whole. But I do forget all it takes is one.
All it takes is one. Heck, all it takes is like a good half of his season. He could come out 10 sacks in his first 8 games, and then before the season's over, before the season's halfway over, he's getting that deal.
What's Randy Gregory getting?
14.
Okay, so for Bradley to get that much more than that, so he would be getting more than Chandler Jones.
Yep.
I'm going down. It's 15% or less.
No, because here's the argument. Now, I'm sure the Broncos would use Chandler Jones as a counter to Bradley, but Bradley would say, whoa, you gave $14 million to Randy Gregory, who has the most sacks he's ever had is what, 6 in a season, 8? So you gave that to him. I just had 15. You got to pay me double that. And then they'll come down and be like, okay, fine, not double, but 20.
If he does that, wonderful, but we are talking about a guy whose career sack rate is half a sack a game.
Who's getting $20 million as pass rushers?
There's a lot. Let me
Watt,
let me pull it up. Yep.
Okay.
TJ Watt's getting $30 million.
Isn't
All pro every year.
Yes, I agree. He's not in that same
Superstar.
In that same
I
category.
think Vaughn's
TJ Watt at $28 million, Joey Bosa $27 million,
Superstar.
Myles Garrett $25 million,
Superstar.
Max Crosby $23.5 million,
High star.
Khalil Mack $23.5,
Former superstar.
Leonard Williams $21 million, and Von Miller at $20 million.
But asterisk by that, because that is the total value of the contract, which he isn't likely to see. His value for the next 3 years, which is the guarantee, basically the guarantee, it's basically a 3-year deal of over a little over $17 million, which is slightly over where Chandler Jones is. And I think that was telling that he got a little bit, in terms of the guarantee and how it practically works out in the contract, he got a little bit more than Chandler Jones did.
Bradley Chubb's agent isn't going to go with the practical route, though. He's going to say, no, Von's getting $20 million a year.
You have nothing that you can compare to what Vaughn is.
You could have a 15-sack season this year.
Okay, all right. Well,
I'm not even saying he gets it from the Broncos.
I understand that. I don't think it's going to happen. I would say that his ceiling is around 20. But man, the way that I don't know. I would bet against it heavily.
I'm an advocate of tag and trade if he has a season like that. Tag him. A team says, yeah, they'll give him that sort of contract. You could probably get a first-round pick for him.
That would be nice. But I hope it happens. Yep. Again, I want these guys to ball out and get all their money. But 20 is really high. If Von Miller's the bottom, the lowest guy getting 20, you've got a lot to prove to be able to say you're going to get the money that he's getting, especially considering Von Miller is getting that money not necessarily because of his body of work over the last few years, but because of what he did for the Rams in a Super Bowl run.
$20 million is simply not that much anymore. There's almost 40 players getting $20 million or more per season.
But how many of those are quarterbacks?
A good amount, but I mean, we're talking wide receivers, we're talking passers, we're talking inside linebackers, defensive linemen. I mean, it is mixed a lot here.
Yeah.
Wait, who's the inside linebacker getting $20 million?
You have who's the guy out in San Francisco?
Fred Warner.
Yes,
Warner?
Fred Warner. Yep.
I'm
sorry. He's getting 19.5.
Okay.
Okay.
Close enough though.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation.
Brandon Cooks is making 19.
What was your main point that we spiraled off of there?
Just about will Bradley Chubb get? What are the odds that he gets 5 years, $100 million?
And then I said the odds are low.
And then I agreed with you that the odds were low. I just think $20 million isn't as eye-popping as it's been in the past.
Fair enough. All right, quickly want to remind you to come down, hang out at the DNVR Bar tonight. I don't even know if you can call it hanging out. Come party at the DNVR Bar tonight. You do have more time, because it's an 8 o'clock start. You have a lot more time to get your stuff together before you come over here. But I would encourage you to come as early as possible. It's going to be an absolute blast. Come hang out, get some food. The move is definitely to when you get here early, eat right away.
Yep.
And then you can move on to drinking Breck brews and hanging out and watching the Nuggets win. I'm super stoked about this game because a lot of people are really whiny about the Nuggets right now, and I feel like, especially in this office, and I feel like that always results in a win right after everyone gets really whiny.
I like it. I like it a lot. And my move at the bar on Saturday night when it's packed, you go to the left side of the bar and you just get the beer tubs. But what I was doing was I was going Good Company hard seltzers.
Yep.
And man, the apple pear Good Company. It's the first time I had the apple pear one,
What?
and I gotta say, it pops in flavor.
Yeah,
Pops
I
in-
would have told you to have that as your first one you ever tried.
I'm not really an apple flavored guy,
But you're like a bubblegum ice cream guy.
Exactly, yeah. So I want the honeydew. I want those flavors, and
okay.
gosh, the apple pear it's an explosion of flavor. It tastes like a Jolly Rancher, and you can't go wrong with anything that Breck Brew does. Of course, we talk about the beers all the time, but I have, especially entering some warm weather. Tomorrow's almost 80 degrees. You got to check out the Good Company seltzers. Whether you're at the bar or whether you're just going to the liquor store, make sure to grab Good Company.
Also, check out Athletic Greens. A lot of people on the staff here have been working that into their daily routine to help out with get nutrition, get proper gut health, etc. What Athletic Greens is
I heard it goes great with a Pop-Tart, Mace.
only if it's got fruit in it, fruit flavoring in it. Only goes great with
Couldn't do
raspberry,
cotton candy
strawberry.
Pop-Tart.
No. By the way, my parents had s'mores Pop-Tarts.
Oh, the best.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yum.
So good.
I looked at him like, what are you guys doing? Anyway,
Yeah.
but back to Athletic Greens. You're not going to get the nutrients from Pop-Tarts, but you'll get them from Athletic Greens with one scoop, and then you put it in water, stir it up or shake it up, mix it up. You're going to get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, and all those things. So if you're worried about turning 30 like RK is, then the Athletic Greens will help
Highly
you feel
worried.
a little bit younger. There you go. And if you want to get in and check out what they've got over Athletic Greens, go to athleticgreens.com/Broncos. That's athleticgreens.com/Broncos. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens will give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/Broncos. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate in daily nutritional insurance. athleticgreens.com/Broncos.
Awesome. We go and pick of the week now or later?
Well, later.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of the weather tomorrow, going down to Spring Valley with Spence and Mitch. Big Drive Spence, Big Drive Mitch, as you guys may know them. Going for the hole-in-one challenge again. Last year, I believe we hit upwards of 500 shots, and we're unable to hole one. What do you putting our chances at? If you're setting the line, what are you setting the line at that we get a hole in one tomorrow?
I think Bradley Chubb has a better shot of getting 100 million in the next year than you do of getting a hole in one. I have confidence in you.
Odds wise, I
Yeah.
would say that's probably true.
Yeah, so I'll go. So it's all of you.
So you could say maybe it's 1 in 500, but like if you were to just Google like what are the odds of getting a hole in one, now it's a little different if you're just hitting one shot
Right.
for one hole.
Right.
It's 12,500 to 1, but for pro golfers, it's 2,500 to 1.
What if you get 100 shots at the same
Right,
flag in a
right.
row? It's got to change it.
I'm gonna give you 1% chance.
Okay. All right.
I'm telling you, there's a chance.
So you'll give me
You can
100
do
to
it.
100 pizzas to 1 odds on a pizza
I
bet?
certainly will not be doing that. I would go broke, bankrupt.
Okay. You're not professional. What's your handicap?
A 5-ish.
Okay, pretty good. I'm going to
Yeah,
say,
I'd say so.
instead of the 12,500 to 1, I'd say in a vacuum, you'd be about 8,000 to 1. You'd be,
Spence and Mitch are both
but
scratch golfers.
We're doing it for all three of you guys?
Everyone gets.
So
we're
you
just
have
swinging away.
So you have 300
I think
shots.
we might even have more.
So you have 300 shots in total then, right?
We're gonna probably have. We're not gonna limit it. It's just as long as we can go.
Okay. Well, hell, let's assume 600 shots. Let's just say it's like you guys are going to driving range or something. 600 shots. I would say probably you guys have about a 6% chance.
Nice.
That's
Nice.
good.
All right. I think
Bigger
we're.
chan- bigger
I think
chance
we
than
have 100%.
I think
chance.
that was
It's
Of
happening.
course you do.
I
That
think-
was
yeah.
a bold move for you to go out to Topgolf yesterday and wear down your arm a little bit.
No, I warmed up, not worn
Okay,
down.
And then today's kind of the day off.
Yep.
I think you had about the same chance as North Carolina had of reaching the Final Four. So
can be done.
There you go. See? It's possible. What are the Nuggets' chances of making the finals, by the way? About 6%?
Man, they've got to be
good
pretty
after
low
Saturday.
now. Yeah.
Probably not even 6%. So you have a better chance than the Nuggets of making the finals.
There we go. It's
good.
going to happen. I just feel it. I feel it in my bones.
Which one, the hole-in-one or the Nuggets?
The Nuggets. No, the hole-in-one. Maybe both. Maybe if we get the hole-in-one, the Nuggets will go to the finals. It's like a correlated thing.
Lots on your back.
Yeah, we
Good luck.
can handle it. Speaking of my back, feeling a little sore from Top Golf. This 30 thing really, really sucks. All right. We have a little bit of an ownership update coming in this morning. So I guess for that, we'll toss it to Zach and Sports.
Well, thanks, Ryan and Weather. The Broncos have narrowed down their... Yes, thank you. The Broncos have narrowed down their search for the next owner to 5 potential buyers, and 3 of the groups were announced according to Sportico today. One of them led by Rob Walton, Rich Rob, as we'll call him. Another one led by Josh Harris, and another by Todd Boley. And of course, those guys all have, or those previous 2 all have connections to other sports organizations. Ryan, back to you.
Yeah, and we're actually going to toss to our expert on the sports ownership situation here. Mace, what teams are these guys involved with?
All right. Well, Josh Harris, pardon me. Josh Harris is the primary owner of the Philadelphia 76ers and the New Jersey Devils.
Okay.
And he owns 18% of Crystal Palace, which is in the Premier League. Little trivia, Crystal Palace's ground, Selhurst Park, is AFC Richmond's home ground in Ted Lasso. Nelson Road. That's one of the reasons why AFC Richmond has very similar colors to Crystal Palace.
So he owns the team with the second best player in the NBA, and he owns the team that employed the second best goaltender in NHL history.
Yes, you're right. You're right. I see where you're picking up on that.
Yeah. What about Crystal Palace? What do they have that's second best?
I mean, they're not even second best in London. They're kind of down the list a little bit. Okay. So
Crystal Palace sounds like a place you go in Vegas at 2:30 a.m.
It surely does. It surely does.
And then Todd Boley, who is the CEO of Elridge Industries, which is a holding company, he's got 20% of the Dodgers.
I'm out.
27% of the Lakers.
I'm extremely out.
Part ownership of the Los Angeles Sparks of the WNBA.
I have no hard feelings towards that.
And he's actually got couple of irons in the fire right now. Not only is he pursuing the Broncos, he is also part of a group that would like to buy Chelsea in the Premier League from Roman Abramovich.
This is worst case scenario. No way do I want to cross-pollinate the Lakers, Dodgers, and Broncos.
Well, then don't worry about it, Ryan, because he is worth... That was Todd?
Yeah, Todd Boley is worth $6.2 billion.
Right. And
Josh Harris is worth $5.6 billion.
And
that seems like it's more than 10 times less than Rob Walton.
It is. Those guys could go in and put all of their net worth together and bid them together, which they're not going to do, and still not even come close. I wouldn't be shocked if, and it doesn't seem like it's going to reach the $5 billion price point, but if Rob Walton wants this, he could say, how much are you guys? What's your net worth? Okay, that's my bid for the Broncos.
He can push them all in.
Yes, he could push them all in and then some, and the team would be his. So to me, this isn't a competition still. Unless one of these other 2 unnamed people are a monster person, I mean a top 20 wealthiest person in the world, it's over because Rob Walton is the 18th richest person in the world, and he doesn't put this initial bid in and become one of the final 5 if he's just going to back out.
I mean, the other thing is Rob Walton may have a certain number, even though he's worth $70 billion. He may say, well, I don't want to go past 4.5, but I doubt that would be the case because, and while the football I would hope would be important to him, probably the bigger play long term is, and that's why we talk about stadium and facility development, that sort of thing, is I think the bigger play for him, as it is for the Walton family in general, as we see with Stan Kroenke, it's the real estate play. Yeah. Like SoFi Stadium put a lot of money into it, but it's as much a real estate and getting a valuable tract of land and maximizing it as it is, I want the Rams to do well.
Is that one of the reasons why Kroenke privately funded that? Because it helps them in that way, in one way or another?
There's more. Well, obviously, there's more that you can make if you are privately funded. The other thing is in California, the appetite for publicly funded stadiums right now is non-existent. If he wanted
But he also privately funded the Pepsi Center at the time.
Right. Well, he didn't build. No, he bought the team. The Pepsi Center was already built.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
Didn't build. Stan Kroenke did not build Pepsi Center or Ball Arena.
When I Googled that, it said he did, but I'll take your word on it.
He bought the team after the construction project went forward. So, or the teams, I should say. So, the thing that obviously Rob Walton could do whatever he wanted here. The question would be, I think also, if Rob Walton bought the Broncos, would he partner with Stan Kroenke on something long-term? Because we continue to hear rumblings about Kroenke wanting to build his own building for his own new building for the Nuggets and the Avs and turn this into a real estate play. And that's the key. And that is also kind of the key thing. Remember, even though Stan Kroenke privately funded SoFi Stadium and all the development around it, he decided that even though he was paying for all that land and all that development, that it would appreciate the asset that was the Rams, which necessitated the move from St. Louis to Los Angeles. So even though St. Louis was giving a lot of publicly funded money, the ceiling was higher with the privately funded project in Los Angeles.
Is Sam's Club named after Rob Walton? Because his name is Samuel Robson Walton.
It's named after his father. His father, Sam Walton founded Walmart.
Yep.
Which also was Sam's Club. Bud Walton, Sam's brother, is involved with it, but Sam was kind of was basically the guy that was primarily in charge.
We sure he didn't name it after his son?
I'm positive, yes. I'm absolutely positive. Because it was named after Sam. It was named after Sam Walton. All the Sam's Choice and all that. That is after Sam Walton, the OG of this whole thing. Of course, Stan Kroenke married Ann Walton, who was a daughter of Bud Walton, and Rob Walton is Sam Walton, one of Sam Walton's children.
Sam's Club Field at Mile High makes a whole lot of sense.
No, it's got to be Mountain Lightning Field. I mean, you got to play into that specific brand, the geography of the region.
Honestly, people have said like Walmart, that would suck. I'm like, it's all better than Empower. No one even knows what Empower is. I still don't even know what Empower is. Real quick,
it's a retirement retirement funds company. Investment company. But that's why it meant something for Empower to sponsor the stadium, because people outside of the financial services industry didn't really know what Empower was. It's why Raymond James stuck its name on the stadium in Tampa.
Yeah.
Because Raymond James was well known in the financial world, but wasn't really well known beyond that. Well, it was a play to, and even Ball, like people knew Ball jars. Well, Ball's getting into aluminum, as we've often discussed and talked about. So that's why, like, Pepsi, what did Pepsi get from putting its name on Pepsi Center? Everyone already knew Pepsi. Yeah. What does Amazon get? Same thing, or even quick, Walmart.
This from a Forbes article in 2019. For the first time since buying an NBA and NHL team, billionaire Stan Kroenke has both teams in the postseason and no debt on the Pepsi Center, the arena he privately financed.
He bought the team and the arena, and then he probably assumed the debt. But that was in play before he bought the team.
But either way,
it's his building. Yes,
he paid for that and that. So there must be some.
He probably assumed.
They're not just doing that out of the kindness of their heart.
He probably assumed the debt on it.
Right. There's got to be some kickback.
Right. Well, it's just I think they want to own the land, and so they can expand and all that stuff.
Yep. And the land out by DIA is getting more valuable. But if you build a whole honking complex out there, it's going to be so valuable.
It is going to be very valuable. Anything else on this ownership thing, real quick?
Don't forget about the name Rob Walton.
Yeah, I mean,
you can pencil him in as the next owner of the Denver Broncos.
It feels like it's done and dusted.
Yeah, it does. It really does. And now the only other thing is these ownership groups and potential owners are meeting with Broncos management in early May to kind of then get this final process started.
The cool thing, I'm a bright side guy. The cool thing is you get to call every other NFL team poor after Rob Walton buys the Broncos.
Like big time poor. Yeah.
So just to clarify, Stan Kroenke didn't buy the Nuggets and Avs until 2000.
Okay.
And Pepsi Center / Ball Arena was completed a year earlier.
So he just bought.
He bought it. It was part of like
He just. I guess he must have just bought.
he
the
bought
debt.
the whole. He bought the teams. He bought the arena. He bought it all in lock, stock, and barrel.
Makes sense. Interesting. It's interesting that they would phrase it that he privately financed the arena because it
Right.
doesn't. If it was already built.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, DraftKings.
Yes.
You want to tell us?
Yes, I want to tell you about DraftKings because, guys, every single week they've got a new deal going on. And this week, new customers can bet $5 on any team to win and get $150 in free bets instantly. So bet on the NBA playoffs, and if your team wins, you get $150 in free bets. That's all you have to do. No, your team doesn't have to win. All you have to do is bet, and you get $150. So bet on the Nuggets tonight. $5 on them to win. If they win, $150 plus your winnings. If they don't, $150, and you are good to go.
Like
And
165 if they win.
right now is the time. Yeah, because what are they, plus 210 or something
Ish,
around there?
yeah.
Yep. Now's the time to get in to be in on the playoffs. DraftKings is also going to have awesome draft bonuses and props that we'll be breaking down in the next week. So get in, head to the App Store now, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now, and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to get this offer. Again, bet $5 and get $150 in free bets over at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700.
By the way, real quick, an entertainment group originally funded Pepsi Center,
There we go.
but it was mostly private.
Okay.
So he just assumed the debt and everything.
And let's get into our DraftKings pick of the week. And speaking of tonight's game, I'm going Jokic over everything. Now, I'm not parlaying these because one of them may not hit, but I'm going over points. His points, 28.5. I'm going over rebounds. His rebounds, 13.5, which is still just mind-blowing. I'm going over assists, which is at 7.5. I'm going over threes, which is at 1.5. Good juice on that one, too, plus 175. I'm
struggling.
going over points, rebounds, and assists, which is at 49.5. I'm just taking Jokic over everything.
All right. I'll zero in a little bit just to help our listeners. If they only want one pick tonight, it's rebounds for me. Over 13.5, I thought it was a big problem for the Nuggets the other day. Usually Jokic feels these things, understands these things, and says, all right, we're not going to let that happen again. So if there's one major adjustment, I think, tonight, it's that the Nuggets do a better job of rebounding. And I think it'll be led by Jokic, who will end up having like 16.
Man, and if that's the case, then I just love the points, rebounds, and assists at 49.5.
For sure. For sure.
Clayton Kershaw coming off.
I wish I could take
Yeah,
over
the
on
perf-
Jokic free throws. There's no way they're letting him shoot 2 free throws again.
No, I agree.
Sorry. Go
Right,
ahead.
that's
Mace.
okay. Clayton Kershaw, take the over on the strikeouts tonight, 6.5.
They playing the Braves?
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And also, that is like you talk about a bad pitching matchup for Atlanta. Clayton Kershaw, who was pulled from what could have been a perfect game. How do you guys feel about that, by the way?
Right move.
I see. Thank you.
Wrong move.
Yeah.
You have a
Spring-
chance to make history.
Spring
It's not about
training was
history.
half the length. Kershaw's dealt with injuries the last few years. He wasn't stretched out to go the full 9.
And he agreed with it.
Yes.
So at that point, like, I don't know how anyone
Yeah.
could disagree with it. If he's like, yeah, I was starting to get sore. I didn't feel like I was stretched out enough.
If there had not been a lockout, I think Dave Roberts would have let him go.
Did he say that? Did he say he was sore?
No, he just said, I agree with the decision. It was a weird spring training.
Yeah.
We haven't been throwing a lot.
Right.
To me, it was easy. It's not about making history. It's about winning championships.
No, in that sense. You got to go for it. You got to go for it.
I think literally 2 starts later, 2 rotation turns later,
Yeah.
they let him go. He just wasn't stretched out enough.
Hopefully you don't have to find that out tonight, Mace.
Yeah, hopefully not. But if we do, I'll be very sad. Huascar Inoa pitching for the Braves got shelled last week. It's probably gonna be.
The Rockies' only one and only no hitter in franchise history came against the Braves.
I was
Yes,
there.
It did.
Ubaldo
Yes,
Jimenez.
Ubaldo.
He was effectively wild,
Yeah,
and
7
then
walks.
and then he settled down. Like his last 3 innings were his best in that game.
This is the opposite of a perfect game. Well,
Yeah,
not the opposite, but as far from a perfect game as you can get
Yeah.
while throwing a no-hitter.
It was. I mean,
exactly.
there were ducks on the pond first 5-6 innings, and then he settled down.
Yep.
And speaking of interesting, let's hop in to the second week of our player prospect preview of who the Broncos could pick with the 64th overall pick. And I said, speaking of interesting, because the guy we're talking about today, Bernard Raymond, boy, is he interesting. 6'7", 305-pound offensive tackle coming from Central Michigan. And why he's interesting, not just because he's almost double my size and in terms of height, but he is also a former wide receiver, a former tight end. He's only been an offensive tackle for 2 years. This guy is very talented, but very raw as well.
He's from Austria, took up football relatively late. He's literally added 58 pounds over the last 4.5 years. Now, that being said, he has some work to do on his body because it's 58 pounds. It's not muscle 50. It's not all muscle 58 pounds. Some of it is you got to eat to get bigger. So he's going to have to kind of work on his body a little.
My motto.
Yeah. Hey,
It's not working.
yeah. I mean, when some of us have the opposite problem, right? I mean, he's trying to keep weight on. Very, very quick feet, very agile. The only thing you can knock physically is the arms, but if you're looking at somebody whose skill set is cut from central casting for zone blocking, this is the guy. I mean, I think you think back to like 16 years ago when Mike Shanahan was still coaching the Broncos, we would have been looking at Raymond and saying, okay, this might be the number one offensive lineman they target because his skill set and his size and his fluidity does fit zone blocking so well.
We've hit he's not going to be there season in the
yes,
comments.
we have.
It's nice. It's been we've made it all the way till April 18th before I had to deal with he's not going to be there Twitter or
What's
he's
crazy
not going to be there comments.
is 100 guys aren't going to be there according to
Exactly.
people.
So who knows?
Yeah.
He might go early. He might fall. We never know with this stuff. There's always surprises. There's always guys who you think will go that don't go. What I will say is I just love having an athlete at that position. And it's not everything, as we know. Garett Bolles, elite lacrosse player. So cross sport, athleticism doesn't always necessarily instantly translate, but I just like this idea. My only issue is we need to take one of the N's off the end of his name and put it after the I so he can be Rain Man.
Yeah, I love that, and I would love this pick for the Broncos because what do the Broncos not need right now? They don't need an instant starter. They would really benefit from someone with a high ceiling, and this is something that he has. He could sit for a year, and then potentially maybe we're talking about him being the Garett Bolles replacement over at left tackle, or maybe he's the future at right tackle. This would be a great pick if he's there.
Yeah. All right. Shall we move on to the comments? Any super chats? All right, let's go right into the comment section on thednvr.com. Become a member, and we will read your comments every damn day.
And the first one coming in from 4140 says, hearing how Zach's mother wouldn't buy anything orange reminds me of a story I would like to tell you all. My wife doesn't care about sports, and she hates the color orange. So for every holiday, I would joke that I was going to get her an orange Broncos jersey. Eventually, she started to reply with, you can get me a Broncos jersey as long as you get me a green one, which is her favorite color. One day in 2017, months before Christmas, I was at work, and it hit me out of nowhere. Get her a Virgil Green jersey.
Oh my God.
Right away, bought one and was excited for months telling her I got her a green Broncos jersey, and she would just laugh it off. Her face on Christmas was priceless. She must still love me because she will still wear it once a year on Super Bowl Sunday. Go Broncos, let's ride.
Can we get it in a game that the Broncos are on a day that the Broncos are playing?
Maybe this year.
Maybe this year.
Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. That's very clever.
That's a good story. From Mark IT Snatch. It's been a while. Hey guys, since it's the offseason, let's go around the league. Every fan of every team except maybe the Texans has one thing they love to gripe about: Hall of Fame snubs. Some were just hard to gauge their impact. Some were overlooked. Others were despised, a la the Jose Canseco effect. Some flew so far under the radar no one outside of the team's fans knew who they were. Given these unsung heroes of the gridiron, starting in the NFC West, who is the most glaring Cardinals Hall of Fame snub?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not an expert in every team's Hall of Fame snubs, so Mace, I know you're doing the research now.
There isn't. There are some that argue that Adrian Wilson is a Hall of Fame snub. I know there was an article that kind of said him, but that said him a few years ago. But he's very fringy as a Hall of Fame candidate. Like if you look at other safeties, we've talked. We know a lot about Hall of Fame safeties here, right? Adrian Wilson's resume does not come close to that of John Lynch or Steve Atwater,
right?
Or even Dennis Smith, who I think is a legitimate Hall of Fame snub. they have a lot of guys who would kind of be in that that range of what Peter King calls the Hall of Very Good.
Yeah, 5-time Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
That's
Adrian
not
Wilson.
a big snub.
If you go back to the 1980s, they had a really terrific wide receiver that was a deep threat named Roy Green, a converted cornerback. But he was an electric player for a few years in the 80s. He's a Hall of Very Good guy. Aeneas Williams is in the Hall of Fame. Kurt Warner, who went there at the end of his career, he's in the Hall of Fame. Larry Wilson's in the Hall of Fame. Roger Worley is in the Hall of Fame. Going back, Dan Deerdorf's in the Hall of Fame. Conrad Dobler won't be in the Hall of Fame, even though he's a memorable player from the 70s, because he's kind of a dirty player.
So big snubs.
I don't think Arizona's got anything to complain about.
Jake Plummer. All right, moving on. Broncos super fan. My boys that love the content enjoyed listening with D-Line on Friday. A couple of comments. First, just got the Let's Ride and Kemperer shirts. Great quality, style, and artwork. I love them. Love that. Second, there have been talks of Wilson's chance of winning MVP, but it's a bad idea. Here's why. The last league MVP to hoist the Lombardi in the same season was Kurt Warner in 1999. 9 league MVPs since 2000 have made the Super Bowl, but all lost. I'd rather you have to change the opening song because number 5 we're still waiting for than Russ win the MVP. Love all the DNVR team podcasts and keep up the outstanding coverage.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but if you have
the best quarterback in the league.
The best quarterback in the league, yeah, you're going to have a chance, and I'm going to sign up for that.
Maybe they don't win it that year, but Tom Brady has been MVP a few times. Peyton Manning was MVP a bunch of times. Mahomes was MVP one year. He won the Super Bowl the next year.
Yeah. Also, the only thing I can think of is you become a little too reliant on passing the ball. For example, if your quarterback is that dominant, and then you can't run it when you need to in the cold. That's the only thing I can think of where there would be some sort of correlation.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about the two ones that popped in my mind, Peyton Manning in 2013 against the Seahawks, that was just a nightmare of a game. The Seahawks were perfect to defend that, and also the Broncos are missing so many players. And then I think of Mahomes in the Super Bowl. He was missing his 2 tackles. That's really, really tough.
Excuses.
I will say one thing that is interesting.
I just used the same excuse for the Broncos in 2013.
I mean, one thing that is interesting, though, is since Kurt Warner won it in 99, then 2 years ago, Kurt Warner started the streak of MVPs who lost the Super Bowl. Because he won it MVP in 01, Rams lose the Super Bowl. And then the next MVP in the Super Bowl was Rich Gannon, Raiders lost. Next MVP in the Super Bowl was Sean Alexander, Seahawks lost. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning.
Yep.
Peyton Manning again, Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady. That's the last 8 MVPs to play in the Super Bowl that year all took the L.
There cannot be any sort of reason for that other than just luck.
Yeah, it does seem like that. Ozzy Dan with a really cool one here. He says, "Good day, boys. Just wanted to let you know that I managed to stumble across the line in my 4 marathon ASL fundraiser."
Yeah.
Clap it up. Right on. He says, "I started at midnight and was done by 11:20 p.m. After a few sore days, despite full of blisters, I feel recovered and extremely proud, as you should be. I also managed to raise over $13,000. I'd love to go more in detail, but I'll save that for when I get to meet you later this year. Bring in the schedule release so I can work out which game we can attend while while on our USA vacation. Go Broncos, Ozzy Dan." That is so freaking cool. And
He
Ozzy
ran
Dan
for 12 straight hours.
24 straight hours.
Oh, sorry, 20. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
24 straight hours.
Yeah, 24 straight hours, and this is only 3 days later. He says he's fully recovered. Are you kidding me?
I would never fully recover.
No way.
Just box me up.
Yes, you're done.
Yeah, we're a little short on time here, so let's try to hit 1 or 2 more and then get out of here. Sobey Brothers says, "Good morning, gentlemen. Sorry if you've announced this earlier and we missed it. What are your plans for the NFL draft?" Good question. We would love to do a dual screen official draft coverage and get live reactions and conversation from you guys, muting the official coverage, of course. That is exactly what we're doing. For the 3rd straight year, we will have our NFL Draft Day live coverage. We just put together a really awesome plan for it. Going to be really exciting. Obviously a little different this year with the Broncos not having a first-round pick yet and likely not at all. But we still will be live throughout the entirety of the first round, talking about how moves could impact the AFC West, the AFC at large. Obviously now we get to think about things like that, like the playoffs. So we'll be discussing all of that. We're hoping to have some really great guests. both days, but you can count on us to be with you through all of day 1, all of day 2, and then for a full wrap-up show at the end of day 3.
It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast. You're going to want to make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can catch the live show. If you're with us right now, hit us with a thumbs up. We'd really appreciate it as well.
And that is probably a good place for us to wrap things up. So we'll see you down here at the DNVR Bar tonight for the Nuggets game, and we'll see you, of course, right back here on YouTube tomorrow.